quick question. Between the two, who do you think is more competitive?
Thanks, guys.
Among the three of us, who's more competitive?
Kyan.
It's my show. Thank you. Yay. Just kidding. This is gonna be hours essentially, so it's gonna be a little tricky. But thank you, folks, for the applause. Appreciate it, both sides. Oh yeah, I'm faking this side. But the mics are here, so if anybody who's watching this, please help us do a quick sound check. But thank you everybody coming back for the Coffee with Kyan. This week is part of our forum series. Probably tell that usually we have 4 folks, but I thought that with this being a special topic, I'm talking about competitiveness. I'll throw myself in the mix. It can be a little cutthroat, so shall we do a little intro about ourselves? Christina and Jared with me.
Yay, I'm Christina, Calzolari. I was on Coffee with Kyan about 2 weeks ago. It was a great experience. I am a Cerner specialist here at ITWorks, and I've been here for just over a year and a half. Had a great kind of growth and learning curve here. Started off as everyone does, as like a trainee and graduated from that. Now have mentored a couple of people to bring them up through the system and just career growth from there. So.
Woo! If you liked the episodes from 2 weeks ago, please keep watching it. We got tons of buzz on there. And then I think that Christina got a lot of beautiful things happening in Cerner.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback on that train ride and make this an awesome year going to next year. Your team's actually growing, super exciting.
Yeah, health team is booming right now, which is awesome.
Cool, yay. So number 1 team, right?
Yeah.
Oh, hi.
I'm Jared. I started with ITWorks about 5 months ago. I'm getting to my 6-month. Wow, can't believe it's already been 6 months.
I know, crazy, right?
Yeah, and I think you call us competitive, but there's no other way to be. And I'm on the Salesforce team, and Salesforce is there's such a big, diverse pool of things to do in Salesforce. There's different clouds, different this, different that. So just learning that piece is enough. And then to kind of really apply that to what I think you think is the competitive piece in getting the jobs on, getting the client relationships and that type of thing it's this thrill that I didn't know that I had. So it's a challenge. But yeah, been here for 6 months, almost 6 months, and I feel extremely like this is my family. I'm here. So yeah, thanks for having me on Coffee with Kyan.
You're so nice. Oh, that kind of made me feel bad about throwing us all coming against each other. But if anybody that's watching this, give us a quick sound check and let us know how everything sounds so far. So today I have a few subjects I would like to cover actually, and Aisha will probably tell that you have a little tool. And then we may actually have a really quick spin-off. See who gets it the longest from the beginning to the end, shall we?
Oh, hold on.
Everybody in position?
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so while we're going to the subject, I'm going to go through a really quick game of shows that 25 signs if you're competitive or not. If this resonates with you, please take a piece of candy found in front of me. And I'm going to go ahead and start the first one. Number 1, you can't just walk or drive next to somebody. You have always to be slightly in front of another person. Number 2, you've lost.
I want to qualify that one though. It's
Sure.
not that I have to be in front of other people. It's just I think that other people move really slow and I move very fast.
Yeah, if they're not going the speed limit.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Oh,
Number
that's
2.
cheating.
I didn't touch it with my hands.
It is still going, still going, still going. Oh, happy July 4th, everybody. If you're watching this before July 4th. Number 2, if I've lost or sacrificed friendship because you're in need of winning.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I'm out.
Kyan.
Still going. Hey! Sweet. Number 3, you have agreed to do some pretty stupid dares because somebody said that you couldn't.
Can I take 3 candies?
Next,
Variety of candies.
Monica from Friends is almost as competitive as you. All of your friends know that it's all fun and game until you lose. I've actually hit somebody in the head before in volleyball. Sorry, Bob. All your
Poor Bob.
You refuse to go easy on people because of their age.
Oh yeah. Listen, if you can't learn the rules of Candyland,
Yeah.
that's your fault.
Yeah.
Don't
How are you
ask me
supposed to
about-
graduate to Clue? If
Yeah,
you can't
exactly.
get Candyland?
If you don't know how to play Candy Crush, this is not my fault that you're beyond level 500.
Candy Crush.
Your family have banned you in the past from board games.
No.
No.
All right. You check your Uber passenger score on a regular basis.
You can do that?
And someone rated
Someone
me.
teach me, 'cause I
Somebody
wanna know.
rated me bad, and I think it was my friend Joaquin. If you're watching.
Oh, Joaquin. So I believe it's going to your customer support,
Okay.
and then you can request your score. How am I doing?
I'll be doing that as soon as we finish here.
I know. I think mine's like 4.6 right now.
Oh, it's not bad. Mine's 4.8.
Well, that's
I bet mine's 5 stars.
Speaking of,
and that's similar subject. You have secretly raised your coworkers on the way of coming back from lunch breaks.
Yeah, actually, coming back from pho.
I know we do.
oh, like that, like racing, because I thought you meant like try to be back at the desk before anyone else.
Oh, no.
Okay. Where's the good candy?
Oh, how rude!
Mr. Goodbar's the best.
People think that you're greedy because you strategize events for office events, such as scavenger hunt, such as.
I don't know if they think I'm greedy, but I definitely do it.
I don't know if I care what they think.
There you go.
Oh, freshly learned from Tony Robbins. Fantastic. So, last one. Essentially, if you're not good at something, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how are we doing out of the 10?
I've got 7.
I have 6.
I have 7. We're fairly competitive people.
Yes.
So, how do you think that, Christina probably answered this, I think I will probably all our input. Is competitiveness innate or trained?
I think it's innate.
Nature versus nurture?
Definitely. I mean, you can grow up in a more competitive environment for sure. That can, lead itself to be, more inclined to engage in competitive activities. But I feel like, and I know plenty of people who, they grew up in a, we played board games all the time. My family was super competitive, and then it just turned them off from playing games at all because that just wasn't who they were. Whereas you can take someone who has that just competitive nature in themselves and not have that environment, and they seek out ways to have competition. Whether it's something like that no one else knows about, racing your coworkers, like back from lunch, or strategizing for things like that. So in my opinion, I think it's a nature thing instead of a nurture thing.
And I think to kind of piggyback on that, it's nature in a way that may not be evident in the forefront, but then you have these different mentors or these coaches or what have you that bring that competitiveness out in you.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, there's nothing that those coaches are going to be able to do to make you want something. But if you want it and you're just kind of reserved about it, then that's when the coaching can kind of bring that piece out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of agree to both because I think that it's gotta be there naturally somehow to start. And I think that some people see it as a self-starter, but the sustainability sometimes is the nurture portion of things. I almost want to tie that into if you have siblings or if you have people that you grew up with you, the sense of camaraderie, I think probably can be somehow formed in the earlier stage.
I mean, I feel like competition is very similar to when people say oh, you're a type A personality. That's something that's inherent in yourself that I don't think, obviously through nurture can be either, dissuaded against or grown. But I feel like, I've always been competitive. My mom always shows this example of when me and my sister, she's only 19 months older than me, I was competitive with her for everything. So it was I skipped a grade because I wanted to be in the same grade that she was. And her funny story that she always loves to tell is that when we were little and my uncle would be messing with us and he'd pick up a couch cushion or a little throw pillow and he'd toss it at my sister Becca, she would just start crying oh, why'd you hit me with that pillow? And he would do the same thing to me and I'd pick it up and throw it right back at him oh, you're not getting the best of me. So it definitely was something that was born into me, I feel like.
And somehow ignite that we all have siblings and grow around with people, right?
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 4, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 3, and my 2 older sisters are 7 and 8 years older than me, and they're definitely competitive against each other.
How about you?
I'm the middle child, so
I was
have
just
an
about
older,
to say, like, are we coming across the youngest child here?
No, I have
a bunch of brats.
an older brother who's 4 years older than me, and then I have a younger sister who's only like a year and a half younger than me. And you know, my sister and I weren't as close as we are now, but now we kind of relate because we're in the same sort of area of our life. But my brother and I, we were not competitive against each other at all because his competition would be more towards like virtual stuff like video games and paintball guns and stuff like that. And my competitiveness was within music and like trying to be the best of the best in the you know, the talent show or whatever, and he had nothing to do with
He
that.
was not even worried.
How important is it to win, for you to win?
I mean, I think it's pretty important. I mean, I think you could gauge that across not just like games, but life in general.
Yeah.
You know, I actually feel like as someone, if you identify as being a competitive person, the person you're most competitive against is yourself. I think that those type of people are the ones that are pushed to drive a little bit harder to be the best version of themselves that they can be. They tend to be more of the athlete-oriented, maybe not in a way of like, I'm going to go out and play football, but like I want to, you know, be at the gym or
competed
swim.
in some sort of
yeah,
fashion
some
in
kind
the
of way like
past.
that. Yeah, so.
No, and I think
What else
like
then?
I think that even like bringing in the piece of the reason why you're winning always has to stay at the forefront. Is it for the show, or is it legitimately, you know, going through, let's call it a mortgage process? Is it a small win? Every single form that gets submitted, is that a small win? And yes, it is. You know, getting to the end of that, I think people kind of underestimate how time consuming and straining it is to not only do that, but then still continue to try to go through, you know, your life at work and still try to be, you know, who you are at work. So I think that can be a big thing or a little thing, but I think that the point is you have to win for the right reasons.
Absolutely.
It's kind of odd because I always take it very personally, and then people always saw me seem soft-spoken, but I'm actually extremely abrasive. And so people always look at it as like, did not see that one coming. What's this guy trying to do?
You have a way of like turning it on and off depending on you're good at matching your audience.
They say I'm bipolar.
I'm saying we're all bipolar.
Oh!
Yeah. No, I take losing very personally. I mean, in my relationship, even my boyfriend and I started playing tennis together, and it was supposed to just be this like fun, like active thing to, you know, get us like, you know, athletically moving and that kind of stuff. We'd go out, like, let's just hit the ball back and forth to each other, and it like turned into almost becoming an intense fight in our relationship because he kept beating me, and I'm like, why are you being like so serious about this? We're just supposed to be lobbing the ball back and forth, and you're actually serving it. And he's like, well, if you want to beat me, get better. And it made me so angry because we're both very competitive people. So yeah, losing I take very hard, even if it's just supposed to be in a fun situation kind of a thing.
So just sometimes certain things. I'm not naturally good at pool. I prefer ping pong a little better. But that doesn't mean I don't enjoy a good game. But sometimes when that moment kicked in is, you know, while your guys are going down.
Yeah.
See, that's where my competitiveness like really kind of subsides, is when I go into doing something like pool or sports or foosball or darts or whatever. Like, of course, it's great if I do win. And there was
Under influence or not under influence.
Went bowling the other day and won for the first time in the group. Because I really don't. It's not that I don't give a crap, but I just care about the interaction with people and like. That sounds so corny, but like that's where my competitiveness subsides. Where I'm at now, where I'm the most competitive, is trying to. This sounds really lame, but because I'm competitive at work, some of the things at home kind of go to the wayside. Like my competition with myself is, can I go ahead and do laundry before my hamper gets completely full? Can I put my 15 pairs of shoes away in the place that they're supposed to go?
Designated
That
area.
is, and Travis, if he's watching right now, will be like, yeah, can you, so I can stop tripping over them?
Oh goodness, if Tony is watching right now, he'll say, why haven't you put those shoes away for like 6 months? That's a completely different conversation.
It's only 6 months, and that only happened 5 times.
Yeah.
That is funny because in order to set that boundary, we all set that boundary for ourselves, right? I think that partially is our core value, the 5 C's, start with commitment. Obviously, the commitment is you decide where that's gonna go, how you're gonna go into that. So I think channel that back into sales. How important is it to, well, how do you guys channel that competitiveness into something that you do, or that you set your eyes on, or something that you commit to?
I mean, I think it's exactly that. I mean, we are constantly setting goals for ourselves. We set activity goals, commitments to deals, things like that. And I think that not necessarily that the competitive nature drives it as much as it complements it.
Got so serious all of a sudden.
But that, you know, it's in my personal nature. I don't want to miss that goal. I don't want to miss that commitment. And if I've said I'm going to do something, I want to make it happen. So even something as simple as how many candidate calls I'm going to make a day, or if I'm going to get a job on, you know, like one job on for the week, then it's my personal mission to make that happen, because if I don't, then that's considered a failure to me. Whereas I think some people who aren't as competitive might look at that if they don't make that goal or don't make that commitment as, oh, well, I tried my best and, you know, I'll get back at it next week kind of a thing, which is fine. I mean, last time when you and I talked, we spoke quite a bit about the fact that this is a roller coaster type job, and you can put in 110% effort and not get anything back for a week. But if you continue doing that, you know, best practice in that process, that it will eventually come around. So the way that you can go through that without letting it get you down is to be able to sign off at the end of every day, knowing I put in the best effort that I possibly could, and I'm going to continue to do that each day, even if the result wasn't there. I just know that for me personally, I take it a little bit harder if I don't make the goals or the commitments that I, you know, definitely the ones I set for myself, because those are the ones that should definitely be achievable, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, and there's a sense of, this is a harsh word, there's a sense of almost it being degrading when you get to a point where you didn't achieve it and there were things that you missed.
Yes.
You didn't stick with the process. You didn't send out this e-blast. You didn't make sure you touched, and everything here is about overturning all these different rocks. Yeah. And like you go home, you go, dang, there were 15 other rocks I could have turned over. And if I had this mentality, you know, Justin McCurley said to me when I first started here, get on the phone like someone's going to answer every single time. If you're on this, maybe they'll answer, and you're just going through the motions and you're emailing, and that's the first step to failure, is to think no one's gonna take you seriously.
Yeah.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, thanks, Justin.
It's good advice. Well, and it's so true for that, because you know, if you do go through those motions where you're not acting as if every business development call you'll get on the phone with the client, when it does happen and you're not expecting it,
it's a slap in the face.
It's a slap in the face, and you're caught back on your left foot, and then you're kind of scrambling, and then you lose a lot of that, you know, first impression, which is to come across as an expert in your field.
And the elevation of
yourself. Then you're kind of backpedaling into it, and you can get there again, but it's, why not prepare yourself as much as possible by expecting that every single phone call is going to be a live connection, whether it be a candidate or a client or whoever.
Yep.
And
follow the
like
process.
A winner.
Understand the process and trust the process, and it will come back to you, and it's a snowball effect.
I feel like every time I set my goal on something, if I don't achieve it, I can actually visually see that, you know, that powder of dust and sand in my face. I can always see it like that, like smoke up in my face, basically.
It's almost like you have like your own virtual reality within your own eyeballs, and it just
give me a lot of ideas. Actually, so
it's
far
like the
I'm
light bulb
Kyan.
going off over the head, and
like that piece of egg that was cracked on my forehead the other time. So craziness. So how do you find how do you channel that process into the competitiveness, into actually doing what you do? If you conceptualize it, or put in something more tangible, walking through the process.
I mean, essentially, I think it would just boil down to, you know, I know we talked about small wins, but kind of essentially that, and breaking the larger puzzle down into the smaller pieces and attacking each one of those pieces. Because if you're able to, you know, feel the high of whether it's something as small as calling on 20 jobs in a day. If you completed that, you can check that off. Even if you didn't get through to someone, then you know, that's a win for me. So
it was a
competitive
piece of the 13
nature.
touches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think if you start the day off thinking about the humongous end goal of making a placement, and aren't able to back that up into what the 30 steps of the recruitment process is, and even within each one of those steps, the best practice at which way to tackle each one of them, then it's going to be overwhelming. So it's kind of like, it's setting yourself up for success if your biggest achievement that day is going to be completing 20 BD calls.
Yeah.
As opposed to if my goal for the day is that I want to get 2 jobs on, then I might do the work for the pre-step process and it not come to fruition for that. And then I feel like a failure. And then that, especially for me, taking losing very hard, I go home kind of defeated at the end of the day. So it's kind of in a self-serving aspect, but to keep myself as motivated and confident as possible, it's breaking things down into their smallest parts and getting wins out of them.
I'm going to hear you say that because partially about setting yourself up for success, I think I talked about earlier, having that winner's mentality. But a lot of time as we learn through the recruitment process or entire sales cycle, a lot of people don't know how to set themselves up for success. I think traditional we talk about make 50 calls. And if you don't achieve what you can achieve, then make more calls to achieve those. Then it becomes volume more versus, and finger cross recruitment versus actually getting the quality calls that you're looking for. But how to get to that stage, the planning stages, is extremely important. And I think essentially that will channel back into, you can actually proactively, effectively, and efficiently channel your competitiveness into bringing the things that potentially bring the results.
Absolutely.
Kind of like what we talk about SMART goals.
How do you plan for your day?
And it doesn't take long to plan for your day.
Right.
You just have to, I think that's what happens is, it's easy. So, it easily gets brushed under the rug. But it's something that's really critical, and for me, it really is. Before I go home, I know specifically what needs to happen the next day. That I would have liked to actually happen today, but obviously people close their business down, and you've got to pick up the next day, or they've got their conferences or whatever. So you have to make sure that you are organized, because it's so quick to have so much on your plate that you just miss one thing, and then you're 2 days behind.
Absolutely.
And I think for me, going back to competitiveness and like being in a market that is, or a division that is very new, as far as like who our teammates are, is, I know I've been here for 5 months, but it's time for me to start stepping up and putting my money where my mouth is. And the only way that I can do that, coming back to credibility, it's not just credibility with your clients and your candidates, it's credibility with your internal clients as well. And if you're going to coach something, man, you better know how to do it, and you better have 10 jobs on the board to say, hey, we've done this, and here's the process, and here's what I know. I know I don't know everything in 5 months, but I'll tell you what I do know that got me here.
Right.
And if you don't have that, it's really hard to start coaching when it's like, wait, like, what? Show me where you've done it.
Exactly.
I'm always about a show me thing, like show me. And that's actually what IT Works does, is that they will specifically, like yourself, any of the mentors, will specifically show you how to do it. It's not just, here's an idea, try this. It's, this is how you do it. Yeah. And if you do it, it will get done. And there's a lot of companies that don't do that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, especially yesterday when we went into the Tony Robbins workshop. I think that Gary Vaynerchuk mentioned about a lot of it's about repetition. Once you go through the repetition, where you have a routine, you've seen things through the first time, the second time, the 5th time, the 12th time, it becomes a, actually talking to 15 candidates a day becomes a norm.
Right.
Or bringing 2 jobs in every two days, or 1 job a day, depending on what that routine becomes a necessity. Almost like you gotta eat twice a day, 3 times a day. You gotta go work out every day at a certain time. It becomes a routine. That repetition help you build on that momentum to drive that forward.
Yeah.
So
our CEO Gary, he says it all the time. It's funny. I've heard him kind of mix up the way that he gives like the metaphor, but essentially it's that you can quote lines from your favorite movie, and why is that? It's because you've watched it so many times. Yeah. Or he was giving an example to Michael Frazier, my mentee here in Cerner, but that basically Michael plays football. He plays flag football, and he's like, the first time you threw a football, you weren't great at it, and it's not like you threw it once and you're like, cool, I got that down, I'm done. You throw that football over and over and over 50, 60, 80, 100 times until you can do it without thinking about it, to where you automatically know where your fingers line up in the laces and at what point you need to release the ball in order for it to go to the correct trajectory. So, I mean, it's funny how some of the simplest concepts you have to kind of beat into yourself to realize. But yeah, I mean, repetition it's all about everything. I mean, for you in singing, I'm sure you didn't pick up the lines to I don't know, whatever your first musical was or number that you did.
I mean,
you had to do it over and over.
You become experienced enough to know when something is going to sound a certain way or whatnot. But yeah, if you're going to try something new, I mean, I knew how to throw a football immediately. Just kidding, I've never thrown a football in a way that it should be thrown. Yeah, I mean, you have to make sure that you do it. And what I teach to my... Oh, someone did a deal.
Hey.
That's Matt Garrett.
Nice. Good.
Yes.
Cool. Right.
Just helping close a contract.
Yeah, just keep going.
Sorry,
Yeah.
going back into it.
And what I teach my students, like, because I teach voice and guitar lessons, is that practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're going to practice it incorrectly, you'll
will-
probably still be
You're
okay
great
at
at
it.
doing it incorrectly.
Exactly.
Then that bad habit is formed from that
Yep.
point. Now it also becomes part of your routine.
Yeah.
Probably not as favorable.
Right.
So yeah, I think that in another analogies, I think that we have grown up learning how to dance, how to play the piano. It's always about that form. He always teach you about the form. I think now we got Matthew Gary who just made a deal. Yay! And work out similar fashion as well. It's all about the forms, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Don't pick up bad habits, but obviously that we got lots of people here to help you correct, hopefully along the way. Now, I pick on you two specifically. Now think about we're all naturally competitive people. Now think about, that's on the micro scale. Looking at the macro scale. How can you influence others and channel your inner competitiveness to impart that on others?
I honestly don't know that you can. Just like we talked about earlier, I think that competitiveness is something that's born naturally. I mean, what you can do is be self-aware enough to realize that maybe not everyone's competitive, but maybe they're goal-oriented. Maybe for them, it's all about making a placement for candidates. So that way you're, providing them with a new opportunity in their life. Maybe it's something more personally motivating. I think less to do with what my competitive nature is as much as it is having a self-aware nature to realize that not everyone does things the same way you do or has the same drives and motivating factors. So for whoever you're going to be mentoring or trying to influence, even if it's a client, trying to influence them to move the process faster or to have this interview with the state, or a candidate influencing them to really consider relocation and for it to be a possibility. You have to find out what drives and motivates them and then tailor your communication and influencing efforts to meet that person's need. So
I think piggybacking on what Gary Vee said yesterday about this isn't for everyone.
yeah.
And not necessarily is this job for everyone that's actually in the job. There's different calibers and we're all on this spectrum, and I think going off of that is that what you can do is the show piece and show them how to do it, and find out what drives them. If we're talking about mentee mentor, find out what drives them and kind of pull out a sense of competitiveness that maybe they didn't even know that they had.
Absolutely.
And just having the positive attitude when sometimes it's, the same thing over and over. And the healthy tension helps as well. There's a reason that a sales environment works in the way that a sales environment works. And I've been in quite a few of them, and there is a progression that naturally kind of goes, and they may be slightly different. There may be a variation, but there's still the elements that make it the healthy tension, the process, the consistency, all of those things.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think both in picking actually nail on the head there. It's about understanding their goals and aspirations. There are many ways to get to Rome. Obviously, that depends on how you help them to get it in that degree that they can hopefully be. Goes back to the two words I think is my model of being the most effective also being efficient. If you, obviously, there are many ways to get there, but if it takes you 2 years, 20 years, but ultimately that comes back down to if that ultimately is your goals and aspirations. So having that self-awareness, it's very important in that case. And if you don't know what your goals and aspirations would be, I think that probably will be it'll be probably a longer route to get to. It would be, and obviously people do shape that along. I think we also see individuals that didn't know that potentially in recruitment how much money they can really make until they start seeing things happen. Oh, wow. I think Renee would be a perfect example.
I like that you said that, like many ways to get there. I want to be in a first class seat at the front of the airplane. And that's not everyone's thing, but that's my thing.
Yeah.
And so
some people enjoy the journey.
Some people like coach.
I mean, I think the overarching thing is that if the end destination is success, then exactly what you're saying is true. There's many ways to get to success, and it all just depends on how you yourself are defining that success. And it will be a much harder struggle to get there if you don't have a set definition of what success means for you. So we talked about this the other time, but for me, success is buying a house. Like, that's something that I've had, as kind of like a goal for, a long time. I mean, I'm 31. So I thought, in starting around 26, I was like, I'd love to buy a house someday. But I never was specific on it. I didn't pick out how many bedrooms I wanted, bathrooms, where I want it to be located, what the price range was. And
how much you want to put down for it, 10%,
exactly.
20%.
And not knowing those things, I'm not set up to actually achieve that goal because I don't know how much my down payment needs to be. So how much do I need to be saving each month? So what do I need to be cutting out of my current expenditures? That kind of thing. So yeah, I think if you have an accurate definition of what success is, coupled with a highly competitive, motivational type nature, then I won't say that it'll be easy, but it'll be a clearer path to achieving it.
And even if you didn't plan exactly how you should have planned to get that house, because of the ambition, because of the amount of energy you're going to put behind it, you will make it happen or push it through or whatever you want to call it to get into that house. And the best part about it is even like being in a house after 2 years, you're still going to feel like it's a brand new house and there's so many projects to do. And so it's...
That backsplash isn't going to refinish itself.
Exactly. No, it's not.
Electricity box just fire itself.
Oh, man.
So, obviously with those is, not having a clear mindset. Both of you guys were extremely correct on that. We talk about SMART goals, so important, being specific, being something that's measurable, tangible, so on and so forth. Attainable. So, having that something specific on there, so you give you room and potentially a cushion to make any modification. Along the way, something else happened. People get married. People have to take another route. Life happens, but at least you know that you have something that you stick to. And I think that for a lot of people who are watching this, hearing me talking about SMART goals in many different shape or fashion, we'll have several very extremely successful examples for you, and hopefully obviously that channel back into what that makes sense to you individually as an individual. So I think among the peers, let's talk about camaraderie. How can we help each other to channel that competitiveness among each other to make that a healthy competition?
I mean, we already have that in certain ways, where we do like incentive-based competitions. They'll set it up to, who gets the most signed off jobs in a certain time period, and it's fantastic that I haven't seen it in many other organizations. We got tickets to Falcons games, to Braves games. We got gift card vouchers for like super nice dinners places and things like that. So there's already kind of that overarching level of competition here.
Yeah, for hundreds of dollars of nice dinners.
Literally.
But yeah, so that's already kind of instilled in us. And I honestly feel like anyone who's going to go into the recruitment and staffing field already has some level of competition in their person, in their being. I think how we can work to help harness it in more of a smaller scope, like within our own personal teams or just on a peer-to-peer level instead of from a top-down management, is attacking those smaller goals that we talked about. So we've we've discussed, instead of like having the weekly goal, having daily goals, and then assigning someone within the team to be the champion for like checking in to see how people are doing against those, and being able to celebrate. I know we did. We have our consultant of the week, the cow. That's not necessarily competitive as much as it is appreciative.
Right.
But
Some people do take it very seriously.
But yeah, I mean, you can even instill, a competitive nature that's something completely removed from work itself. We set up a fantasy football pigskin pick'em challenge, and I created a little trophy. And so for each week, the person that got the most picks correctly got to have the trophy on their desk. I won't say the name of it right now because it's probably not Facebook PC, but it is a rooster on top of a block. And,
figure that out.
Thanks, Gary.
But yeah, just something small like that. We got people engaged and excited about like who was going to win that, who was going to have the most picks correctly. And when you have that kind of vibe and nature, kind of buzzing around you, even though it's not specifically related to work, it then directly affects work because you're already in that kind of mode, I would think.
Well, and I think one of the things that I can relate to you on, and listening to you and kind of watching your process from, opposite ends of the world.
Literally opposite ends of the office.
It's something that I've always kind of held true to myself and really brought myself from different career paths was treat your job like it's the most prestigious job out there. Sometimes we're in these jobs that it's not a CEO job, it's not, the manager of but your job is the most prestigious job that you have, and you need to treat it as such. And the second you degrade it, you start forgetting about the reason that you're there. You start going back on the goals, and you stop the motivation piece that keeps you there.
Right.
So you should always come into work with your head, do the thing, like walk into the door like this. Ta-da! Everyone's cheering for you. No, but really, treat your job like it is the most prestigious job, because it's important, and it's a piece of elevating yourself that kind of clicked with me when I first started here. Was like, oh, that's a piece of it. Like, you have to take yourself seriously.
Absolutely.
Walking through that door, walking like a 10. Walking like a winner. Your day cannot get any worse than that when you're already a winner to start. Cool. Then, guys, what piece of advice? Any last words of advice for anybody who's watching?
Be patient. I mean, yeah. I just have to say, we want to do things so quick, and it's like, being in recruitment, this is the first job I've ever had where I felt like the weeks just flew by like this. Bless you. But be patient with yourself and trust yourself. And there were so many different messages that we got from the event yesterday, and I wish you were there. But we'll brief you. And some of the things that always stick with me is just trust your gut. Trust your gut. Let people push you. That's what it's all about. And being pushed, and having that healthy tension, and having these coaches all over the place that will give you advice, and just take it all in.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. I would say, just to echo a lot of the stuff that we've mentioned here so far today, that you get out from the work that you put in. So you mentioned practicing perfectly. That whatever it is, if you're interested in staffing and recruitment, or if you're pursuing a passion in some other market or field or career, that I would say never just go to a job every day because it's a job. You have to find something that it is the most important, it's the most prestigious job that you have. Find something about it that you want to really excel and exceed at, that can make you feel special about yourself. And if you have that kind of a goal, then it's hard not to be successful, because then you'll work as hard as you can to achieve it.
Yep.
I agree with both.
Yay.
Any question, please comment. Twitter @CoffeeWithKyan. Thank you, folks. We'll see you next week. This is super addicting.
Super addictive. Spinners.
Mine's still going from the beginning.
Liar.